Today we're going to talk about making a video podcast, and the 4 steps are the best to know when starting your own podcast and creating it yourself. Hi, I'm Tamara Thompson, video marketer for driven and ambitious CEOs and entrepreneurs who are looking to broadcast their authority and visibility online. Stay to the end of this video to learn more about our Broadcast Your Authority system and how you can apply today. I want to make this as seamless as possible for you. So we're going to simplify it with 4 steps that can actually help you create and making your video podcast, right? So really you got to think about number 1. What are your recording options, right? Are you going to be using a professional camera, maybe a DSLR, similar to the camera that I'm using right now? Are you going to mic yourself up with a professional lavalier mic, or are you going to use something as simple as your computer, right? You could be using Zoom, you could be recording with your laptop, you could be recording with your desktop, or you could even get different options for webcams, right? So there's a Logitech brand that I love. There's multiple options. I'll put the links in the comments below in the description of YouTube for you of my recommendations for webcams to get started as well, because you want to make sure that your video is in at least HD, full HD, 1080p, to have a better quality, to be recognized on YouTube with better quality. Yes, you can record in 720. That's, a smaller size, but, really think about, recording in full HD. If you record in 4K, that's totally fine as well, because it's going to compress and it's going to have that crisp feel to that resolution. But you don't need to start with that. You don't have to complicate it, because most webcams actually have full HD. Most of your laptops and your computers also have that option. So just think about that. Like, what is it that you really want to start with? Do you really want to go with a big bang and start with a DSLR and a more professional, crisp camera? Or do you want to keep it simplified and utilize something that you already have with you, which is maybe your laptop or your desktop computer? The second part of creating and making your video podcast is to consider and think about what the appearance is. Your appearance matters, right? So you want to make sure that you don't have a really distracting background. Yes, I'm in a park right now. Yes, you may hear that water fountain over there. But, I'll be sure to get some B-roll to show you what that actually looks like. But yes, I'm outdoors, so you have to take into consideration of sound, right? So normally someone might be shooting a video podcast in their office so they can control that sound. Branding is everything. Make sure that you have a background that's either well branded. You could use Zoom and use, different templates or cut out backgrounds. I'm not a fan of the green screen backgrounds, but that's just me. I like the personal touch. I like to have a little flair in the background. Maybe I have a plant. Maybe I have my little, filmmaking clapper on the side, or something of motivation in the background with a painting or something that shows who I am and inspires others to do the same. Like, you want to have it clear, not cluttered. What is that background? What is that piece? What is your appearance? What is your clothing attire? Make sure maybe you have a branded background in a certain color tone. Don't be a perfectionist, though. That's one thing that held me back for years. I was had a really hard time letting go of the control piece of everything has to be perfect, right? It does not have to be perfect. Just get it started, get it out there, and you can do better as you increase more videos on, when you're starting to record more content. You can start to analyze your content and see where you can tweak the background, maybe your outfit, maybe wear more solid colors. I'm wearing more of a pattern right now in this video. But, if I'm doing something that doesn't want to be super distracting for a video podcast, I'm going to potentially use, my branding colors, maybe a blue or a teal or something like that for that purpose. So it's really important to be able to actually create content that's on brand, and your appearance does matter. If you're one of those people that like to do your hair and makeup, ladies, make sure that you do your hair and makeup for every episode. If that's something that's really important to you, that's totally fine. If you're somebody like Rachel Hollis that hops on shows and live streams and things like that, then, she'll do it, sometimes just in the morning when she wakes up, and then basically she's had her cup of coffee and things like that. So that makes sense for her and her brand. She's just in the real moment, in the live moment, creating that show for her audience. Think about what the appearance is for your overall show. The third thing to think about video podcasting is the editing piece. All these people think, oh, okay, well, we're not going to do this because I don't know anything about editing. Yes, you can get started with editing, but you don't have to do it yourself. There's different programs that you can use, something like iMovie or potentially, Adobe Premiere or Final Cut. There's different programs. There's even apps on your phone that you can actually edit your podcasts. So you can, get creative if you're really looking to start doing something like that. I learned on Final Cut years and years ago. You don't have to really focus on the editing piece. Like, you want to delegate out. If you're looking to keep things cheap in the beginning and you're wanting to hire somebody off Fiverr or out, Upwork or something like that, that's totally fine when you're first getting started. But understand there's teams out there that can do an entire process, like our Broadcast Your Authority system, where we're doing the editing, the distributing, but we're also creating the market research. We're also creating all the teasers, like every little piece. So you're not delegating and outsourcing every little piece to somebody else. You can actually delegate it to one team, one system, one hub that's taking care of you. So you don't have to worry about those tedious tasks that you're like, oh, I don't know how to edit. You shouldn't be editing. You shouldn't be focusing on that. You need to focus on sales and marketing for your business. Don't worry about the editing aspect. Yes, there's tools and ways to outsource, but my biggest thing is to outsource your editing of your podcast, because there's no reason why you should be doing this. I don't care if you're a creative. I don't care if you're like, oh, but I can do it better, or I can do it fast or whatever. You shouldn't be spending your time on that, especially if you're a coach, a consultant, an influencer, an entrepreneur. You don't want to be focusing on that, because the biggest thing that's most important for your business is sales. Get your message out on your video podcast and focus on sales. What is that call to action that's at the end of your video podcast? That's where you want to focus on leading people to, getting them on calls. That's really important. So like I said, yes, you could edit it yourself. You could pull up some apps and stuff like that, but I really don't recommend it. The fourth step of making a podcast, you really have to think about what platform it's going on. Where in the world are you distributing your podcast, right? So our clients, we have them set up a Libsyn account. It's a hosting provider for the audio podcast piece, and then we do the rest. They log in, set it up. They're like, pick this version, boom, we do everything else. We do everything else from the creating the thumbnails that need to pop for your YouTube video podcast piece, as well as the audio piece that we actually repurpose into audio podcasts. So it's important to have those pieces. You have to have every little piece, like the description, your keywords, it sounds really overwhelming because, when you're starting to do this, like, there's a lot of work behind it. And that's why we always encourage our clients, we do 30 days to launch, because we're preparing your launch. We're preparing the content, your batch recording videos. We always recommend that you batch record your podcast so that you can, maybe you're sitting there and you're recording 4 videos, and there's your 4 videos for the whole entire month in like a short sitting under a couple hours, right? So you're creating that, you're batch recording it, you're changing your shirt, you're changing your outfit, maybe you're changing your view, whatever that looks like. But when you're starting to go to upload the videos, after you've edited everything, you've edited the videos, you're editing the podcast, whatever that looks like, then you have to actually upload it, right? You have to do all the tagging. It's so much tedious work, right? So, you really got to think about it, but you got to think about the thumbnails because they do pop. You have to think about the keywords that are being placed in there. Does it match the title? Does it match everywhere that you're uploading? Do you have a description that has your keywords in it as well? You really have to think about those things, because people just tend to just upload videos to YouTube and they just think it's going to magically, have this high following all of a sudden in a matter of minutes, right? There's ways that you have to actually do that. But when you are doing that, keep those things in mind when you're actually uploading. And where are you uploading these to? Obviously, YouTube for your video podcast, as well as different areas for the audio podcast repurposing piece. There's Libsyn, Stitcher, Spotify. There's all those places actually being posted and uploaded to and pushed out to for our clients. We actually distribute to over 30 audio podcast for places, basically, for our clients. So they're being searched from all around the world, which is really cool and unique to say, like, oh my gosh, our client hit number 2 in, another country this week. Like, we get these messages all the time, and it's really cool to see that. And then we just celebrate with them. So those are the 4 steps to really start actually making your video podcast. Keep those things in mind. And if you resonated with this video, be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to see more episodes just like this for the Video Marketing for Business podcast. See you next time.